Hey everybody, Logan Alex CPA here from Choice Tax Relief. Today I'm going to be talking about this new IRS letter. It's the letter 725B. I have a redacted one here that the IRS sent one of our clients. I'm going to go over it bit by bit, tell you what you should do if you received one of these 725Bs, telling you of your appointment with the revenue officer. But first, I want to talk about why is the IRS sending out these 725B letters? This is a completely new letter, never before seen. And the reason is because last summer, the IRS announced that they were going to stop the long-standing practice of unannounced revenue officer visits to taxpayers. Okay? For basically as long as revenue officers have been around, they would just pop up at taxpayers' homes, at their places of employment, at their places of business, to talk to taxpayers. What is revenue officer, by the way? Revenue officer is a high-level collections official with the IRS. It's basically their job to get money out of you, right? The money you owe the IRS. It's their job to make you file the returns that you haven't filed yet with the IRS. So they're a high-level collections official with the IRS. Okay, it's not just, when you call the IRS, you get the telephone operators. Now, the revenue officers, they're folks who have been there a while. They often have advanced degrees. Maybe they went to law school or something. So they're pretty high-level IRS collections officials. IRS said, hey, we're going to stop sending them out to make these random taxpayer visits. Instead, what are we going to do? We're going to send out appointment letters, right, known as a 725B. Okay, and they say there are some limited situations where unannounced visits will still occur, but that's probably not applicable to the majority of you folks out there. So they said, all right, instead of just revenue officers popping up unexpected at people's houses or their businesses, we're going to send them the 725B letter telling them, hey, here's your revenue officer up here. Here's their phone number, their fax number, their name, their ID number, and they want to talk to you, right? And here's the proposed appointment date. IRS also has another page on their website, Understanding Your Letter 725B. It's extremely brief. It basically just tells you that this letter is about a scheduled meeting to discuss any unfiled tax returns, any unpaid balance you owe, right? We send a date, time, and location for the meeting. We may schedule the meeting to take place at an IRS office, your business, or over the phone. Typically over the phone is what we're seeing. And of course, the revenue officer's contact information is there. What you need to do, right, call the assigned revenue officer to confirm or reschedule the appointment. I think there's a 10-day deadline in the notice for that. Right, and then prepare for your meeting by collecting the requested paperwork and documentation. Frequently asked questions. What if you don't respond, right? What if you completely ignore the 725B in your revenue officer appointment? Well, it probably will not end well for you. The IRS does not like it when you don't respond to them. And they say they may take actions, including collect balances owed, substitute return preparation, reject or terminate installment agreement, issue levy, seizure of assets, file notice of federal taxing, all that nasty stuff. All right, let's get into the letter part by part here. First part is the IRS logo up here. And you'll notice that the address here is not the normal national IRS address. This is the address for the office that your revenue officer is from. Okay, in this case, it's an address in San Bernardino, California. Other important thing to note: the date of the notice here, right, or the date of the letter, in this case, February 29th, 2024. Also, person to contact. This is your revenue officer's contact information. You do not want to lose this. This is very important information. It'll give their name. I redacted the last name here, obviously for privacy reasons. Their ID number, their phone number, and their fax number. Okay, and then this is your taxpayer ID number here. It'll show the last four right there. This is your name and address here. It'll say, Dear You, notice of appointment. We assign your tax matter to a field revenue officer for investigation. Okay. We need to discuss your unfiled tax returns or an amount you may owe, right? And then they say, I've scheduled the following meeting for this particular taxpayer. The meeting was on March 26th at 9 a.m. over the phone. That's 9 a.m. your local time. unless stated otherwise. And then contact me at the number shown above to confirm your appointment within 10 days from the date of this letter. If you do not confirm your appointment, it will not be canceled and may need to contact third parties, right? So as soon as you get this letter, well, first of all, you need to accept that either you or your representative that you pay to represent you in this matter is going to have to talk to this revenue officer at some point, right? And probably at any points until your case is out of the revenue officer's inventory. So this is not a bury your head in the sand situation. If this time works for you on the 26th and you believe you can be prepared for this meeting, which can take many hours, then, you should just bite the bullet and go for it. Make sure you're educated, though, on your tax relief options first, or the RO is going to operate, obviously, in the best interest of the government, not your best interest. If that time doesn't work for you, call him within 10 days of the date of the notice. Call him or her within 10 days of the day of this notice here, and ask to reschedule, right? Now, if you really don't want to deal with the revenue officer, you don't want to talk to him or her, you just don't want to deal with them, you can hire somebody to represent you, right, for your revenue officer representation, okay? It's more complicated than kind of tax cases that are just with ACS, which is the IRS's automated collection system. There's no one assigned individual on your case. Now you have one assigned individual from the IRS who's out to get you. But you can hire us, here at Choice Tax Relief. We have CPAs, EAs, tax attorneys who routinely represent taxpayers before revenue officers to deal with this revenue officer for you, right? To have this meeting for you, right? Or a rescheduled meeting for you to have this discussion with the revenue officer. Oh, and that's basically what they're talking about here, right? Someone may represent you. You may have someone represent you during any part of this investigation. If you want someone to represent you, please provide a completed Form 2848 power of attorney and declaration of representative at our first appointment, right? So that when you hire us at Choice Tax Relief, that's the first thing we send you is the 2848, the power of attorney, right? Basically says, all right, instead of me talking to the IRS now, I want my representatives, my name's on there, and then a couple other, my staff will be on there as well to represent you before the revenue officer and the IRS in general. Okay. So this is just more information on how to get the POA to the IRS. Here it says, have the following ready for your meeting. And there's kind of two sets of this, right? This first one here is for unfiled tax returns, right? So a signed copy of the returns. And, what's it talking about here? If you filed the returns listed, where are these returns listed? Well, along with the 725B, the revenue officer is going to send you at the back here a 9297 summary of taxpayer contact, right? And it's going to say, hey, I want to see these tax returns, right? 2022 and 2023 when we meet, okay? So that's what it's talking about there. There's also like a table here, right? Delinquent return indicator. This case is 22 and 23 the revenue officer wants, right? So have a signed copy of the returns. If you file the returns listed, complete and signed copies of the returns if you didn't file the returns listed. And then income statements and other tax docs if you can't complete the unfiled returns. Word of the wise, you want to do the tax returns on your own. Okay, you want to do the tax returns on your own. You don't want to give this. You don't want the IRS to do them for you. The reason and the date you are no longer liable if you feel you weren't required to file a tax returns listed. Let's say you made no money that year. Okay, you probably don't have to file a return. So this is kind of the items list for if you have unfiled returns, right? This particular taxpayer had unfiled returns as well as balances due. And so here is the kind of laundry list for if you have the following ready for your meeting. Kind of this list down here is a laundry list for if you have a balance due, right? So this taxpayer did have balances due for all these years. So IRS is saying, all right, if you paid the full amount here, give us proof of payment. Most of our clients obviously haven't. If you didn't pay the full amount you owe, you'll be asked for full payment or to pay as much as you're able. And those conversations can be kind of scary depending on the revenue officer if they're very aggressive. Because they're collections officials, right? Their job they're not going to come out and say this, but their job is to collect money from you, right? They're in the IRS's collections department. Okay, that's their job. If you're unable to fully pay the amount you owe, you must provide proof of income, expenses, assets, and liabilities. These items will help us determine your ability to pay and discuss alternative payment arrangements, such as an installment agreement, offering compromise, or temporary delay of collection action if applicable. You do not want the IRS to determine your ability to pay. Okay? That is not what you want. You or your representative, with you or their knowledge of how the IRS works and calculates one's ability to pay and what kind of figures to put on things, that is who you want to figure. That is who you want to determine how much you can pay, right? You don't want to just give all this information to the IRS and say, okay, figure it out, IRS. I know you're going to do a great job for me and let me pay the lowest amount possible, because that's not how the IRS is going to do things. You or your trusted professional should be the one to determine your ability to pay. Okay? Don't let the revenue officer do that. Right. And then a list of required financial information is listed on the 1997 in the back. With this information, we'll complete a financial statement together. Yay. No, you don't want to. You do not want the revenue officer completing your financial statement and then saying, here, sign this. They're going to give you they're going to fill out the 433A here, or they're going to want you to fill out this 433A here in this meeting, right? And then sign it. And then they can use that against you. Okay, do not do that. You want to be the one, or your representative should be the one figuring out that information, putting together that financial statement, so you don't get railroaded by an aggressive revenue officer. And then they'll show you this table here. We'll be discussing your filing and payments for the following tax periods, right? Form 1040 here. That's the individual income tax return, obviously. Tax periods listed here. Delinquent return. This is if you're missing a return. It'll have an X here. Amount you owe. Obviously, the taxpayer might be getting a refund, but in addition to these already assessed balances for these other years, the total balance would likely increase after these returns are filed, right? Unless the taxpayer is getting a refund, in which case, if they're still within the refund statute, the refund would just be applied to probably the oldest debt here. If you're unable to provide copies of filed returns and or full pay your outstanding liabilities prior to or during the scheduled meeting, please bring with you the requested information on the attached 9297 to assist in determining the appropriate resolution of your case, right? 9297 is basically everything the revenue officer wants you to bring, right? Wage statements, bank statements, list of real property owned, right? Vehicles, all this stuff here, all this fun stuff, right? And of course, the delinquent income tax returns. so that they can figure out how much you can pay. And then there's some standard language here on penalties and interest. I'm not going to get into it. I've covered this in other videos. How the IRS calculates interest. I have a video up here on the top of the screen about that. And then the fair to pay penalty is just 0.5% of the unpaid balance per month or part of a month. Tax is not paid. Caps out at 25% of the balance. All right, failure to provide the information during your employment and or failure to provide verification of estimated tax or federal tax deposits may require the IRS to take certain actions, such as issuance of a summons to provide information or issuance of summons to third parties. Now, this is important, folks. Okay? It is, when I say you had to talk to the RO, it is in your best interest for you or your representative to deal with the issue with the RO, right? But do you legally have to talk to the RO? No, you don't. However, if the IRS issues you a summons to provide information, then you got to talk, okay? But you legally have to talk to the revenue officer now. It is in your best interest to work with them if you're educated about this stuff, or to hire somebody who's educated about this stuff to work with them. But you legally don't have to talk to them. Reversal of pending installment agreement, issuance of a levy, seizure of assets, referral to U.S. Department of Justice to commence litigation. That's not fun. Examination, referral, or substitute tax return preparation and assessment, filing a notice of federal tax lien, denial or revocation of U.S. passport, third-party contact, issuance of notice of intent to contact third parties. Yes, they are more than willing to talk to people who they know are in your circles about your situation. They generally do have to give you some kind of notice that they're going to do that, but that is within the realm of what they do. Okay. What to expect at your appointment. Generally, the appointment schedule lasts approximately 2 hours. During the interview, the information provided will be reviewed. It's important to bring all the items requested. The goal is to come to a compliance resolution at this meeting. So if you don't know what you're doing, I would say hire somebody to work this meeting for you. Okay. Because these ROs are trained in how to get you to just agree with them, right? They're not always mean, but they're trained to have kind of, maybe aggressive is too strong a word, but they're trained to kind of get you to agree with them. And once you agree with them and put the number on the form and sign that 433A, they can use it against you. What will happen if you don't respond? If you don't respond to this letter, keep your appointment and provide all the information requested. The law allows enforcement action to be taken to collect balances and secure delinquent returns based on the information available. Therefore, it's to your advantage to keep your appointment and provide the requested documents if you're unable to file the appropriate tax returns and fully pay the tax liability prior to the appointment. All items need to be received during a scheduled meeting, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Basically, they're saying if you don't respond to this meeting, keep your appointment, work with the RO, then the IRS can take enforcement action to collect balances and secure delinquent returns, right? They can start, well, they have to give you, the RO would have to issue you notice that they're going to do this and give you your CDP rights, but levy your bank account, garnish your wages, take your stuff. Not fun, right? Not fun. Okay, what to do next? Contact me at the number above shown to discuss the upcoming appointment, right? So that's, to confirm the appointment within 10 days or reschedule it. Okay, then they're going to send you a bunch of publications with this thing as well. And here's more about, hey, you can hire a representative to represent you using a Form 2848 POA. And then here's 1997 with all the stuff that the IRS is gonna want from you, or the revenue officer is gonna want to see from you. Okay, so if you receive one of these notices, it is generally in your best interest to start talking to the RO if you know what you're doing, right? You need to have a game plan developed first. You need to be able to go into that meeting with the RO and know what you think your resolution should be. It should be an installment agreement for X dollars a month, or it should be CNC, or it should be a partial payment installment agreement for Y dollars a month, or it should be an offer and compromise in the amount of. You should know. Do not let the revenue officer do those calculations for you and determine what your resolution is for you. You have to go in that meeting knowing what you're going to be shooting for, right? Or even if you don't, because you haven't had enough time to do so, you're not going to agree to a resolution at that meeting, no matter how much the RO is demanding that you do. Okay? If you're not comfortable with this, if you're not comfortable figuring out your own tax resolution options, which is the best for you, if you're not comfortable kind of saying no and pushing back against someone who's trained to get you to say yes, and they have tactics and ways they try to do that, hire a representative. The folks who have a choice tax relief are great ones. We have EAs, CPAs, tax attorneys on staff who can represent you and deal with this revenue officer for you, deal with this meeting for you, represent you on an ongoing basis before the revenue officer to get you into the best possible resolution for your situation. If you'd like to talk to us about that, give us a call. 866-8000-TAX. That's 866-8000-829. Or visit our website, choicetaxrelief.com. Fill out the form. We will reach out to you. I have other tax relief videos here on the left-hand side of the screen, folks. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.